Welcome to the Plant Cunning Podcast,
where we explore a relationship to plants, other people, and the mysteries of nature.
Coming to you from the high Allegheny Plateau in central New York.
We are your hosts, A.C. Stauble
and Isaac Hill. Welcome to another episode of the Plant Cunning Podcast, and today we have herbalist and author Natasha Lloyd. Natasha has written Foraged Condiments. We talk about garlic mustard, dandelion, yarrow, nettle seed, and some of Natasha's favorite condiments and recipes from her years of foraging and creating culinary delights. Before we get started, I just want to remind folks that we appreciate all of our patrons on Patreon. It's more of a tip than anything, but it really helps keep things going. I also am available for Vedic astrology consultations. AC also has travelingherbfarmer.com, where you can find all of her products, and you can go to her school ectea.org to sign up for her program with Gabriel Mojay. Okay, let's get to the episode. I hope you enjoy. Today we have Natasha Lloyd, who is a forager and author of Foraged Condiments, which is out from Aeon Press. Natasha, how are you doing?
I'm doing really well, thank you, Isaac. How are you doing?
Excellent. Yeah, it's a beautiful early summer day, late fall day, late spring day. Sun's shining in between the rain showers, so
It's glorious sunshine here,
nice.
which
Yeah.
you often hear about Scotland in that way.
No, you're right about that, actually. You don't hear that too often.
Yeah, so you're calling in from Scotland?
Yeah, from the Cairngorms. I'm in Ballata and work in Braemar.
Nice.
Sweet.
So, Natasha, this book this is your first book?
It is. I'm really
Congrats.
excited.
Yeah,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
Yeah.
And this is on foraged condiments, which I think is a great topic because there are a lot of like wild food books out there now. They're starting to, but this is a nice topic to dive into because it's an easy way to incorporate wild foods into your everyday life too, and it's a fun things to make. You can make them at once and then you have them for a while. Like it's a way to process the wild foods.
Yeah.
So I love the concept, and yeah, congratulations on the book. So what brought you to wild foraging and wild foods in the plant path?
Okay, so the plant path really comes from my mum.
Okay.
So I can remember a story when I was a child, which is in the book. And because it was my moment of realization, I was weeding in the garden. And I'm going to put weeding in inverted commas because I'm not a great fan of that word. And I was very detailed, even as a child. And I was like, so why am I pulling out this plant and we're not keeping this one? Why does this one get to live and this one die? And my mum was very intrigued by this. She was very much into independent learning. So we had a copy of A Modern Herbal by Mrs. Greaves from 1931 on the shelf.
Oh,
We had a
classic.
lot of good books. Yeah, I know. I don't know that she really knew that at the time. And so she would get me to look up. So if you're pulling this one out, let's have a look. What is it that you can use it for? And that was it. That was the beginning of my journey. So
Cool.
then I was given the choice. Does this one live? Does this one die? Which sounds really dramatic, but it was more the learning curve that she gave to me. And I started to get my reverence for plants.
Mm-hmm.
As I went through, I discovered later on that you could do a degree in herbal medicine.
Mm.
So off I went and I became a medical herbalist.
Nice.
I had crofts and small holdings for a while. So I was growing and I managed to have my own space instead of my mum's space to do that in. And then as a herbalist, you have something called a brown bottle herbalist. There's someone that only really knows their herbs from a tincture bottle
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like this.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to be a brown bottle herbalist. I wanted to go out and know the plants more than I did from one growing them. I wanted to know. I read a poem that talked about the garden and the garden not just being the garden that you tend, but beyond that is the whole garden that nature is tending.
Mm-hmm.
And that really liberated my spirit into looking beyond this square patch that we call a garden. And that was it. I was off into the hills and finding plants. It was great. And then I thought, well, and then I used to get embarrassed by just always talking about plants. And then that's become a job. It's become something that I do on a regular basis. So how lucky is that?
Yeah, we can relate. Talking
Yeah,
about plants all the time.
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's fun. Yeah, it's really good fun. And now people want to listen. They're really intrigued. They want to know what the differences are. They want to know what the benefits are. Even today I took some people out and we were talking about how much the plants are all anti-inflammatory, pretty much all of them.
Mhm.
And their daughter is a doctor, and they're now talking about anti-inflammatories as the next kind of thing that we need to look at. Everything goes through cycles.
Yeah.
And well, we've been doing that for thousands of years. And here,
Hmm.
so it's good.
So you mentioned going to school for medical herbalism. What school did you go to, and who are some of your like teachers and mentors or favorite
So
inspiring books
many
that you go
mentors.
back to?
So I started at the College of Phytotherapy in Battle.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that financially collapsed and it moved to the University of East London.
Mm.
Herbal mentors, there's so many.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Hananya, Matthew Wood,
Mhm.
Seven Song.
Mhm.
Oh, gosh, so many.
Seven Song's my teacher.
Oh, fantastic. You
Yeah.
lucky thing.
Yeah.
Gosh, Simon Mills, Kerry Bone. I feel like there's so many, I can't remember them all.
Yeah,
I've
I
been
know.
taught by so many great people. And it's not about the people, is it? It's not about the name of the person. It's about
Mhm.
the information being passed on through thousands
Mhm.
of years. And that's what I really felt when I was doing the degree was just what a privilege to be given this information and then
Yeah.
the responsibility to pass that on. So that's my
Mhm.
real base is I've been given this, I must pass this on
Mhm.
Mhm.
and be part of that chain and link of information so it doesn't disappear.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
That's so important.
Being part of the tradition and the lineage and yeah.
Yeah, for
A
sure.
real privilege.
So this book, Foraged Condiments, what brought about this book? Why this book?
Okay, I always wanted to write a book, even when I was a kid. In one of the houses we lived, on the back of a door, I'd written out an entire book. I'd read Dune and I'd read Lord of the Rings at that time, and I was totally in that headspace. I'd written an entire world. That's not what this book is about, but I had this notion that I wanted to bring something forth. And then I love food, and also I love cooking because I love eating. I
I
got
feel ya. Yeah, me too.
I'm proud of this. And then I got a job at the local a local hotel that's been created as an almost like an art gallery.
Hmm.
It has 15,000 pieces of original art. It's an Hauser and Wirth hotel. It's beautiful. It has two original Picassos in it. It's stunning.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, and the owners had created this beautiful hotel. I'd been in burnout and I took a dead end job and I was hitching back and forth. I didn't have a car at the time. And the head chef at the time picked me up. And I'm a talker. And I just said, this isn't my real job. This is my job. And he said, have you got a card? And 2 weeks later, they offered me the job as the in-house forager. So part of that for the first 9 months, it's so fortuitous and a beautiful story that you can hitchhike to
Yeah.
a forager. Yeah, it's just right, doesn't it, when you look at it? And they put me in the kitchen for the first 9 months, and I was creating the pickles, the ferments, the chutneys, the jams, all with forage food, but also with some kitchen, ordinary supermarket food as well to make it interesting. And you can't do everything from forage food for on that sort of scale.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I just thought, well, and also I was helping with the cocktails. We had great fun creating that first cocktail menu. It was really
Nice.
fun. I worked a lot with the bartender at the time.
Hmm.
So it just felt natural to turn that into something that other people could replicate. As you say, Isaac, there's a lot of books about identification, a lot of books about how to keep safe within foraging. So there's becoming more and more, but there's not as many books about what you can actually do with that
Right. Yeah.
in
Totally.
your own kitchen and incorporating that wild food into your own diet.
Yeah, and that's really kind of the crucial thing too. Like you can take somebody out on a plant walk and show them, oh, you can eat this and you can eat that, but unless they know how to actually bring it into their everyday diet, they're probably not going to actually do that, you know. They might take a little nibble when they're out walking or something, but to start incorporating it into the everyday diet, I think that's like the goal.
Yeah, for me, that feels like a really good goal for people. And, those flavors are different to what we're used to and what we're brought up with.
Hmm.
And to me, that's exciting. I mean,
Hmm.
Yeah.
there's an element of caution as well as to why that tastes that way. We'll get into cautions in a little bit.
Hmm. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the excitement of, so a lot of the walks are experiences and they
Mm.
get to hear some information and they've had a fun time. But then to bring it back into your own kitchen is another couple of layers down, isn't it? Or layers up.
Hmm. Yeah. And those flavor profiles, like they're different and we're getting different nutrients from those different flavors. And I'm just thinking about like fi fine dining food, like, at a restaurant, at a hotel, like those condiments are really what set the dish apart from other dishes. So that's such a big, important role to have some sort of like fancy pickle or a chutney or a jam, to bring out these different flavor profiles. So it is really cool to have this book now so that people can bring that kind of like wild and even like fine dining flavor into their own homes.
Absolutely. Not just the flavor, but as you say, the nutritional benefit as well. Because wild food has a much more denser nutritional profile. The soil it's grown in is quite different to most farm soils. So it's
Hmm.
more nutrients.
Yeah, there are all these different phytochemicals and micronutrients hanging out that you don't get access to. I mean, I don't know what the exact number is, but when we were hunter-gatherers, we were eating hundreds of species of plants, and now we just eat a few. So it's
Yeah.
like it's really important to bring all those other plant families and species with their micronutrients and phytochemicals into the diet, I think.
Very much so. I hugely agree. And this was an attempt to try and do that for people, as well as
Yeah.
making it a beautiful book, I hope.
Uh,
Practical as well.
yeah, well, I want to get into some of the recipes and maybe you could show us some of the beautiful illustrations in the book too. But first, you had mentioned cautions, and I'm wondering if you could speak to any guidelines that you do for when you're foraging or what you would recommend to a new forager for both keeping themselves safe and for protecting nature.
Okay, so initially for a new forager, go and learn with someone that already knows. Don't rely on internet. Internet's full of so much misinformation, and it's hard to know which of the sites are a good place to go until you're guided that way. Don't use apps. Apps are still in a learning curve. We're not there yet. I find it quite dangerous that people would use just an app or one source, use more than one source, use a person and books. I know that sounds old-fashioned, but it feels like, a book's been much more well researched than a blog page.
Yeah. Especially when
Oh,
they're all written by AI now.
oh, don't.
Yeah.
I tested AI a few times on its plant knowledge. It's not there yet.
Yeah.
No.
Hmm.
And the apps can be helpful in pointing you in the right direction sometimes, but the problem is especially when people think that because the app says it's right and correct, when I've seen many, many times the app being very wrong.
Hmm.
But they
Yeah,
just like they trust the computer more for some reason. I don't understand that.
maybe the generation we're in.
Yeah.
So I'm in my early 50s, so I'm used to books,
Yeah.
and I've always been a book lover. But then when you think if you only use one source, you're
Yeah.
relying on one piece of information. So even when I use a book, I'm using three, four, five books before I make a decision. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
also, we're using our senses as humans. AI can't use
Mhm.
senses.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, 'cause, I mean, a lot of times, like the smell of the plant is one of the most important identifying features.
Hmm.
And yeah, AI does not have a sense of smell or
No, and
taste.
then
Hmm.
how do you put over what that sense of smell is when it's something new to you? You can say it's like
Yeah,
acid, but what does that mean?
Mm.
yeah. If you don't even know, yeah, if you don't have a referent for the smell, it doesn't mean anything. To
Mm-hmm.
also,
Yeah.
this is this new thing.
Mm.
But I like what you said, yeah, about using multiple sources. I think that's really crucial. Like you can ask on, oh, if you're new to foraging, it's good to have somebody to go with, yeah, for sure. But if you don't have that, posting to multiple Facebook groups and an app and books and like look, really cross-referencing everything if you don't know what the plan is. I think the multiple sources is key. I agree.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Association of Foragers, which you can look up and find someone locally to you across the world. Maybe not so much outside. There's
Cool.
a lot more in the UK, but there are a few in the States and other countries as well. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
you said a foraging group. What's it called?
the Association of Foragers.
Oh, the Association for Foresters. Very cool.
Yeah,
Awesome.
that's a great resource.
Yeah, I think having people to go out with is really important. And then you'll eventually get to know like a handful of plants, like several plants that you can very fully confidently identify, eventually you'll get there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so identify one that you like, nettle or dandelion,
Yeah.
and
Right.
Yeah.
then start to look at the plants around those that live
Um,
close to them, is the way that I've been kind of putting that across.
Yeah.
Then the different environments. Is it growing near a river? Does it like its feet wet? Does it
Mm-hmm.
like being in the moor? Does it like being up a mountain?
Mm-hmm.
Start to see it that way. Then the other cautions that I have is obviously do not eat anything you do not know 110% what it is.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
learning botany is a very good way as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Takes longer, but you will be much more surefire way to know.
Yeah.
yeah. Feel like
And
key it all out.
yeah, yeah, it's a pain,
Yeah.
but in the long run, you're going to be a better forager for it.
It's true. It was my hardest part of Seven Songs program was the botany part. We did it every Tuesday. We'd go outside to different places and with our big books and keep plants out.
Yeah, it's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then obviously don't think about not just yourself, think about other people coming behind you. So if you've got like a patch of nettle, the key for me is to not take more than a third of that patch.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's not just the other human coming behind that wants to forage, it's the insects and the other creatures that want to eat off that patch as well.
Yeah.
So really respect and think of how that patch is going to grow later for the next year. If you over harvest, you're getting rid of that patch and you won't have it, no one will have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
some plants are easier. Like nettle, like it doesn't mind a cut back, it grows back stronger sometimes. But there are other plants like out here we have ramps, and those are pretty, you can easily over harvest ramps, like the
Yeah.
wild leeks.
But
Yeah.
then I've also seen where people have just cut down the whole
The whole,
one garlic plant. And you're like, you've really not thought about that. If you take each leaf,
yeah,
Yeah.
think about how that plant's going to keep going and then go to seed.
Right. Yep. But if you take the whole bulb, it's done.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Our roots are a very different ball game as well, aren't they?
Yes, they are. Yeah. Yeah, there's some plants, I guess, that you can take a bit off of and put back, like Solomon seal. You can harvest the further nodes and then replant the first node where the green is coming up. So that's like, there's some plants that will work for, but a lot of times when you're harvesting root, that's it for it.
We should be
Yeah.
aware of that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, having a relationship with that land and with that place to be able to see if it's, a flourishing patch or if there's anything that you can do to help it flourish, like spreading seeds again in the fall.
Yeah. Yeah, give back. I can't say the word reciprocal. I can't say it.
Yeah.
reciprocity.
That's the one. Thank you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. But yeah, that yeah, what you're saying is very true. Like, for nettles, like each plant is also different and like needs different things. So when you're taking people out, are you mostly taking out like newbies
Yeah.
and so though I guess it also it's better to start with the easier plants to identify and harvest. But what do you see when you're taking people out? Like What are they asking about it?
So most of the time, people want to go for the experience. They want
Hmm.
to, and also that connection to nature.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you don't have to harvest the whole load to get that connection. So we're looking at the senses and the sense of place and the respect for the plant and the gratefulness of the plant. So we'll nibble little bits as we go along. Quite often I'll find out, is it medicine you want to know about? Is it cosmetics? Is it condiments? Is it cocktails? What is it that really gets you excited? And then try and tailor it to what they want. And then just, I can't help myself. There's a passion for each plant, like rosemary
Yeah.
herb. So you can use every part of this plant. We see it all the time along the side of the road here, and
Mm.
we just go past it. And in actual
Yeah.
fact, we can eat this really easily.
Yeah. How do you eat it? What's your
Yeah,
favorite ways to work with it?
I don't think we have that where we are very much.
No.
So tell us about rosemary willow herb. Who
So
is it?
rosemary willow is also known as fireweed, and it's a
Okay.
pioneer plant, the same as nettle. So if you turn the ground over, it will come up.
Mm.
The root can be used in medicine and has a chemical, 5-hydroxidase.
Mm.
And I wonder if that's part of the pioneer species because that's also a nettle root and does the same thing
Oh,
for an enlarged prostate.
oh, wow. Wonder.
Yeah, I need to look that up actually.
Cool.
It was just the thought that I had when I realized that that was that connection.
Yeah,
Then
that's cool.
the stalk can be used and it does actually taste of asparagus. How many times does it say asparagus in an old foraging book? This one really does. Then the leaves can be used to make a tea called Ivan's chai.
Ivan's chai.
Yeah, it's really quite delicious. So you take a handful of these, you scrunch them up, oxidize them 3, 5 days, and then dehydrate them. It doesn't have caffeine in, but it has tannin and lots of nutrients.
Mm.
Hmm.
And then the flour you use into a syrup or a jelly. I like making it into a jelly. That's one of the recipes in the book. And it's a
Mm.
beautiful color with a light floral flavor.
Mhm.
Excuse me, and used in Canada a lot. So when you know a culture's used that part of the plant for that length of time, that gives you confidence.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
And the Ivan's tea, that's is that like a Russian reference? Because they use that tea in Russia, right? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Used for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there is more fireweed up a little bit north and in the
Yeah,
Adirondacks we see it, but we don't see it down here.
true.
But I didn't realize that was fireweed. Okay.
Yeah.
Our
Cool.
names, eh?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
names.
Yeah, my friend makes a fireweed flower essence that she uses for stress, PTSD, and like trauma.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I've done a lot of work recently because one of my hats is working from the Clade Clinic, which is COVID Lyme infectious diseases. So a
Hmm.
lot of long-term health issues,
Yeah.
especially with Lyme disease. And so I did a lot of work this year on trauma and somatics. So that'll be really interesting. Thanks. I'll look that up.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Cool. So, what are some of your other favorite plants from that you included in the book?
It's a really hard one, is it? What is a favorite
Yeah.
plant? One
Yeah.
that's been with me years ago. I was in a clinic room and I was the only student that day. And the person I was with said, let's do a little meditation. And what plant comes to you? And it was yarrow.
Yarrow.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
love yarrow.
Yes.
Yeah, yarrow's great, and I've m mainly used that medicinally because it has so many medicinal value uses.
Mm.
But so, have you? How do you make a condiment out of it?
Yarrow in here was mainly used in the bitters,
Uh-huh.
Okay,
the
yeah.
Yeah.
aromatic bitter aspect.
Yeah, I love yarrow in my bitters.
Well, it isn't fully bitter, is it? Because it's got that aromatic, that kind of
It
sage.
does. Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
good to add to the other bit with the in a what's it called
Mm-hmm.
when you put plants
Formula?
together? Formula.
Formula. Yeah.
There's recipe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use it all the time in clinic. It's, for circulation,
Mm,
for, you know, if you look at tradition, it's a balancer, which
mm.
drives scientists nuts. So I really feel like I fit in two camps. I love science to give you that kind of surety. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
then tradition, which obviously with a lot of science, we're actually showing that tradition was right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Love
quite
that.
a fun time to be alive, isn't it? To see that
It is.
happening.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so explain this balancer effect. What does that mean as in terms of herbal actions?
So there's a few aspects of, especially with yarrow, it's known as balancing blood.
Mm,
Hmm.
hmm.
So on a practical level, it's a styptic, so it stops blood flow. So that's its old name, isn't it? Achillea millifolum is from
Hmm.
Achilles' heel from the Battle of Troy.
Yeah.
And so it's heavily speculated. We don't fully know that it was used as a battle wound herb.
Hmm.
And so battle wound herb is like your leg off. Did it really do that? We know it works on small cuts and bruises, but we've never
Yeah.
done that brave part. And then also when for toning uteruses, and if you know that you don't have any other issues in your endocrine system, you have good hormonal balance, but your blood flow for your period is too heavy, it will dry it up. If you know you're not pregnant, it will also allow the flow to happen.
Mhm.
So that's my classic how it balances blood.
It's kind of
Uh-huh.
wild, kind of crazy. It can stop blood and it can make blood flow. Like,
How does
wow.
it know that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's almost like it's intelligent.
Yeah.
Wow, really, honestly. Yes, of course, it's very intelligent.
Hmm.
Yeah. Have
Yeah.
you read Stephen's book on plant
Yeah.
intelligence? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We interviewed him. Well, it was one of our early interviews, so feel very lucky to have been able to have done that. But yeah, that's a phenomenal book, for sure.
Yeah. Of course, plants are intelligent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Makes sense.
But that doesn't, the of course, also science isn't gonna. It's hard for science to accept that.
Yeah, and I could understand that.
Yeah.
But when you see it happening,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and there are things that we're not always going to be able to explain,
Hmm.
you're not going to harm anyone by giving them yarrow.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely one of the we had on Josh Williams recently, and he was talking about how plants like mint and chamomile, a lot of people who are just getting into herbalism, they're like, oh, so excited about those, and then people who are a little bit further on, they're like, oh, those are newbie plants, but then actually those are the most important plants because they're there and they've been there the whole time, and they want to help humans, they're so useful for so many things, it's so helpful.
Yeah.
But I feel like yarrow is one of those like really powerful plants that it has always been there and it's
Mm.
so easily accessible for humans and so helpful for humans.
And is almost everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so easy to identify. I mean, especially here, there's not many other plants that, in fact, I don't think there are any other plants that look similar
Hmm.
Yeah.
at this location. And it's antibacterial, it's antiviral.
Mm. Yeah. Right. That
So
too.
it's so helpful for so many common ailments, you know?
It is probably one of my more used plants in my apothecary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can understand that.
I use it in my
And of course,
muscle rub as well as anti-inflammatory and yeah, for
yeah,
wound.
of course, pretty much every plant's anti-inflammatory.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, of course, it goes back to we've got historical records of it being found in the cave of Sandahar, 10,000 years.
Wow. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah.
The I Ching, the Chinese divination,
Oh, yes, that too,
Yeah.
right?
the storks, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still used for that.
Hmm.
That's definitely a powerful plant ally there.
Yeah.
So in the book with the different condiments, what are some of what are some of the plants that are feature most heavily in
Okay,
this?
so I chose 20 plants just to
Mhm.
keep it as a book that you could not have to wade through, and for my own sake of you've got to stop writing at some point. So then out of those 20, I chose recipes around those 20.
Hmm.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
So there is Jack in the Hedge, what you might garlic mustard.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
garlic
Yeah.
mustard. Yeah, let's talk about garlic mustard because I mean
Yeah.
that's one that's like where we are, it's
It's
considered
a
invasive.
little
It's
problematic.
like it's
I was reading about that.
Yeah,
I
it's taken over certain areas.
It secretes some compounds out of its roots that affect other plants. So what happens is initially it comes into the forest and just like takes over, but well, apparently also the plants get used to it after a few generations. So I think there's kind of a balancing thing happening, but it's really aggressive as far as plants go out where we are.
Well, that's really interesting. It's in clumps here, but it certainly doesn't take over. But I've read,
Wow.
I don't know how, I haven't investigated fully enough,
Uh-huh.
but I understand it's to do with the type of mycelium.
Oh,
Mm.
really? Is why of what
Right.
if it takes over or not, you mean?
So a younger forest doesn't necessarily have all that mycelium, and then as different ones come in,
Hmm.
then it starts to balance Jack by the hedge.
We do have young forests here for sure.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, in our area, it's like been clear cut within the last
Well,
century.
it was all pastures
Yeah.
80 years ago.
Yeah.
And then most of the trees are under 50 years old.
Yeah.
okay, so where I am, it's ancient Caledonian forest.
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
have the windflower here, which is a marker of very, very, very old.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
How blessed are we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. We have a couple trees that are very old, like they left as like marker trees, kind of like on
Yeah.
property
They're
lines.
special.
But most of the trees are pretty young. But
Yeah.
because garlic mustard is so common and considered invasive, it's one of those plants that you can harvest as much as you want and never feel bad.
That's handy.
Yeah, for us, we eat it as like pest. We throw it in pesto and we saute it among other greens, the young leaf. And Isaac's made mustard from the seed before.
But it is also has a very strong flavor and it's hard to
It can
it can
overpower.
overpower pretty easily too. So how do you use it?
So in an aioli,
Uh-huh.
so that it tempers the flavor.
Ah.
The creaminess of the mayonnaise starts to reduce that fire that you
Oh,
get from it.
I want to try that like right now.
Yeah.
Delicious.
So you blend it with like, do you use the leaf of it?
Yeah, what part do you eat the leaf? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That particular thing. But that's the interesting part about that plant. When it's young, it's garlicky and then it
Hmm.
turns to mustard. And then for me,
Yeah.
seed pods are like wasabi, like really fine,
Yeah.
horseradishy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
So do you use the seeds or the seed pods in these condiments?
Not in this book, but I have done
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
as part of my own eating.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. The seeds the I've made the mustard and it can be pretty strong. Like if you make like vinegar and grind the mustard seeds, it can be pretty strong. But we had Wildman Steve Brill on and he said that his favorite thing to do with them is to harvest the seeds and then just like dry them and use them like on
Like
salads.
poppy
Like,
seeds, kind of.
you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And that's a good way to help mitigate the invasiveness of it. Again, I don't love that word, but like if you go around with a paper bag in the later part of the season and shake out the seed heads into your paper bag, then they're not dropping on the ground and creating a whole blanket of new growth. So,
That's interesting, isn't it? That we want to, we've talked about the fact that we want to make sure things are able to keep going, but
yeah.
then in other cases, you want to like stop them growing.
Yeah. Because like right now in our woods, like the garlic mustard, when drops its seeds, it's sending up thousands of new plants. And in that space is trillium and trout lily and all these spring ephemerals that really like won't have a chance if the garlic mustard grows before it and takes it over. So there is like a certain role of eating your wild, aggressive plants, like in our case, the garlic mustard can help with encouraging other rare plants to thrive. So it is
Eating
interesting.
invasive plants. And that's how Stephen came to the conclusion about Japanese knotweed.
Ah,
Oh, right.
Is to
yeah,
look
with
at
the
the
Lyme
invasive
disease.
plants. What can we use it for?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. As they say, if you can't beat it, eat it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm also like, look in long-term cycles too. It's like in the
Mm.
long term, I think the invasive is can be a silly, but it is aggressive. Like it does. cause some problems. It's like I think of the whole property as a garden, so I am like cultivating,
Yeah.
like maintaining weeding and mulching and
Even in the woods
even in
and
the woods,
farming. Yeah.
yeah, in parts of it.
But we're not just that square. We're
Yeah,
beyond
Yeah.
guardians
Yeah.
and custodians of the planet.
That's it.
exactly. Yeah,
Everyone is.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's our like real purpose as humans.
To be
Feels
good
that way.
guardians. Yeah.
So do you ever use the root of the garlic mustard like wasabi or anything like that?
No, I've never used the root because I tend to not use a root because we only have small patches here.
Right. Yeah.
Mm, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. There can be a fun little with the garlic mustard sometimes if you harvest the crown in the early spring.
Oh, the broccoli rub.
Well, no, there's like the actual like crown of the between the root and where it's coming out. It's like a vibrant purple in the middle, like
Mm.
the heart.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's actually my favorite part of the garlic mustard. Like
Mm.
a little secret little purple heart you can eat.
That
Nice.
sounds great. See, I look at that and think, oh, it's coming, but I don't think about eating it because I want the plant to
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
different because there's less here.
Yeah.
Well, that's the other thing that's so important also for foraging is like knowing your area, and like what grows well in your area and what's like yeah,
Abundant
because
or
it
not.
every
Mhm.
place is different. There are places where a plant is native to that it's like dying out in, and then it's invasive in other places, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's important to have an understanding. You're completely right. And that also helps you connect to your local environment.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, for sure.
Are there roots that you do use that are abundant, like dandelion or burdock in your condiments?
Yes, dandelion root.
Mhm.
So a pear and dandelion root chutney, which is
Oh.
delicious. So,
Oh,
and so that gives, obviously, you've got the sweetness of the pear and
Mm.
the roasted dandelion root gives a
Mm.
coffee flavor. And
Mm.
it's so good.
How do you
Um,
prepare that? You roast the dandelion first and then you cook down the pear and combine them?
yeah, so onions, pear, a touch of salt, touch of sugar, a heap of vinegar. I like vinegar over sugar.
Hmm.
And balance that out to what you want it to be because, and that's what a lot of the book is this is to make it to your taste profile, what you
Yeah.
want it to be instead of buying something off the shelf that someone else has created as a commercial product. You get the
Hmm.
chance to play and be the
Yeah.
creative in your own kitchen. So yeah, dandelion root I'll use. Obviously, here legally, you're only allowed to take roots with landowner's permission.
okay.
Hmm.
In your garden, that's okay.
Hmm.
Most people aren't too worried about dandelion roots.
Yeah, right.
I'm still careful and cautious. And also, I
Yeah.
don't want that whole patch of dandelions to go.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right.
It's so good. So, so delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
contains inulin as a prebiotic.
Uh-huh.
And there's a study being done in the University of Windsor in Canada looking at dandelion root for leukemia.
Oh my.
Wow. Cool.
A human study.
Oh, wow. Very
And
cool.
that was a couple of years ago. And I think it was on year 6 at that point.
Okay.
So I
Nice.
need to look that one up as well.
Yeah, wonderful.
That's it's great that they're starting to do more studies about herbs because it seems like that's been one of the things, if you don't do studies on the herbs, then there are no known scientific
Known.
you know
Well,
reasons to use the herbs. There, yeah.
Of
yeah.
course, it takes a huge amount of money and time and
Yeah.
energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easier if you have an expensive pill that you can sell afterwards rather than dandelion, which is on every every yard.
Yeah.
There's a really interesting thing when during the lockdowns, I wrote an article on dandelion and someone got back to me and said, you're wrong, you're wrong. So I basically said that dandelion was taken across the water with the settlers for food and medicine. And people used to have dandelion lawns. I researched this and did
Hmm.
lots of looking it up. And it appears that that was the case. And what happened as people became more affluent, they didn't have the lawns as dandelions, they had them as grass to show their affluence.
Uh-huh.
Oh.
And the gentleman was quite adamant because they're quite vilified here as being in your lawn.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's actually the other way round.
Yeah. Wow.
They were highly valued.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you can eat every part of it and you can
Yeah.
make wishes on the seeds.
We've got a dandelion lawn now.
Yeah, we do have a dandelion one.
We have
Intentional,
what?
sorry, intentional or unintentional?
We didn't plant it,
No,
but
they planted themselves.
yeah, there's like a sea of yellow when we look out in the spring. And
Oh,
yeah.
love it. Have you got into dandelion wine?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we love dandelion wine. We use the
I
golden raisins in it.
Nice.
Yeah.
golden raisins and golden flowers.
Yeah. Adds a nice flavor, the golden raisins.
Yeah, I do. I used to do a lot more brewing than I do now, but that was one of my favorite things to make. Dandelion wine in the spring, and then elderberry wine in the summer.
Mm. And
Fave
root
stuff.
beer.
Root
Root
beer
beer
in
in
the
the
fall.
fall.
Yeah,
Nice, okay. And that's
Good.
sarsaparilla, isn't it?
yeah. We do Aurelia nudicalis is wild sarsaparilla out here instead of the smilax from the Caribbean, and then sassafras. I use sassafras.
Okay.
You put reishi in it as well, and burdock root in it, and
Yeah, yeah.
other roots,
Lot of fun. A lot of fun.
cinnamon.
It's like what you're saying, like with the recipes, like you have like a master recipe,
Yeah.
then you can like add certain things and or make it to your taste. That's one of the fun things about cooking, I think, too. It's like I like to eat, so I like to cook, as you said. But then
Mhm.
because you like to like you have your own taste, then you can make that taste just for yourself.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? It's much,
Yeah.
much better. And you become the artist.
Hmm.
Yeah. So do you make dandelion wine?
I
You make
haven't for a long time. Like yourself, I haven't done wines for a long time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it would have been dandelion and elderberry. So that totally resonated when you said that.
Nice. Cool.
For your
Nice.
spring tonic, I mean, you obviously have to wait. That's the problem. You have to wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spring tonic with dandelion and then your antiviral
Mhm.
in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When before we hit record, you were showing me some of the images from the book, and Hawthorn was in there.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you want to share that image of the hawthorn because it really stuck out to me. And I'm wondering if you use the berries for medicine and food?
For medicine, I use the
Flowers
early leaves,
and leaves.
flowers, and then berries all in
Yeah,
one,
all in one.
Mm.
Okay, nice.
which I really enjoy. And I think it gives a better medicine. Obviously, it's mother of the heart. Can't find it now.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting, isn't it? It's another one of those plants that is synergistic. I
Mm.
can't isolate the compound that
Mm.
Oh,
create the effect. It's all of the phytochemicals that create the effect. So it's positively allotrophic and negatively allotrophic. So when it hits the body, so they're fancy words for slows down the heart, speeds up the heart. And we have
yeah.
medicine, orthodox medicine that does those things. But Hawthorne has the intelligence, for want of a better word for science, to know when it hits the body how to respond.
Mm.
That's really
Incredible. It's next level.
Yeah, and it's so important too. Like as herbalists, we kind of know these things, but then, oh my God, that's gorgeous.
Mm.
need to interrupt.
Yeah.
Well, like with science, they took out just one compound or one thing, and it's like it's supposed to work synergistically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I think, like meadow sweet, that's not in the book. I can remember. No, it's not. It was where aspirin first came from, yet it will heal an ulcer. It's huge. Yeah. Because I think now this is speculation and we don't fully know. And that's part of the issue is we don't fully know, but
Yeah.
it's all compounds around the salicylic acid
Mm.
that create the less side effects.
Wow.
Takes
Right.
the next level out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah. So if you
so
take
cool.
just aspirin, you may heal the pain, but you get some stomach problems. Get some, I get
Pinhole.
some
Yeah.
ulcers there.
Hmm.
Wow. I didn't know that, but that makes a lot of sense, and that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know?
Great, isn't it? It
Hmm.
takes it to another level in your brain. Isn't
Yeah.
it great that we're always learning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It never reached the end of learning.
Right. I love that. So
Well,
what are some of the condiments that you've used in the restaurant or at the hotel or that people have responded really wildly to in your book, like favorites?
Definitely the pear and dandelion,
Yeah.
uh,
Mm.
and apple and lime flower chutney.
Hmm.
Ooh.
Really delicate. So you
Uh-huh.
have to be really careful how you cook that. You cook that really slowly. No charring, no browning of onions, and
Okay.
just do it really, really gently. And to
Hmm.
keep the aromatics of the lime flowers.
Yeah.
And then when you open it, it's so good.
Is
So,
it
so good.
citrusy
No, it's
and
the
or
linden.
oh, linden.
Yes.
Oh, I thought yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
I call them lime flowers, but they're Tilia linden.
Sorry, I just wasn't familiar with that term, but
Yeah, across the pond they call them lime
okay.
trees.
That's cool.
But that's why we have Latin, isn't it? So that we can have the same language.
Exactly. So that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
It's delicious.
Yeah.
Highly recommend. What
Yeah.
else?
And probably like mood uplifting too, just having a little bit of that.
Yeah, and relaxing to the nervous system.
Yeah.
Mm. So
Yes.
do you add the flowers closer to the end? Like you cook the apples and then add a flower? Okay. Yeah,
Mm.
that makes
Right near the end.
Hmm.
And do
that's
it really on a low heat at the end there so that you're keeping the aromatics as much as possible. So literally when you open the jar, you get a hit of aromatics.
Mm. Sounds great.
and then that's a medicinal condiment.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you make any
Yeah.
sauces?
Yeah, Hawthorn berry sauce, so like a
Ooh.
ketchup. I think I did a hoisin sauce and then rose hip ketchup. Oh my word.
Yeah. Sounds good.
When I did the wild biome project, only ate wild food for a month.
Yeah.
And I was trying to replicate some of my favorite foods. One of those is spaghetti bolognese. So a friend did very kindly, because I'm not near the coast, and I couldn't, when I went to the coast, I couldn't find sea spaghetti,
Mm-hmm.
type of seaweed. So we did sea spaghetti and then
Ooh.
venison mince.
Ooh.
And of course, you want to put a tomato base to that. So I
Mhm.
just use rose hips,
Wow,
like
it worked.
straight rose hips with nettle seed to give it a little bit of umami.
Oh,
So good. And I thought, oh, this is psychosomatic. This really tastes of tomatoes.
that's crazy.
And then when I went back to ordinary food, I was like,
Yeah.
right, I'm going to try that again just to see whether it was my brain playing tricks
Yeah.
on me. They really taste like tomatoes.
Wow.
I'm so surprised. And, am I trying to akin it to something that I already know the flavor of?
Yeah,
No, and then I gave it to people saying like, okay, this is a forage sauce. Do you want to try it? And what do you think this tastes of? And everybody said tomato.
that's wild.
So is it just the rose hips or is it the rose hips with the nettle seed? Like what, what makes
Ooh.
the taste?
The taste is the shells of the rose hips with all the
Yeah.
seeds that have been taken out because of the hairs.
Yeah.
I wonder if the nettle seed played a part. The second time I did it with other people, I didn't put in the nettle seed and they still said tomato.
Oh, okay. So it must be the rose hip. And then are you adding a little bit of other like garden herbs to it? Like in tomato sauce, you would add oregano and maybe a little thyme and sage
I
or
didn't in that case because I
yeah.
wanted to be a bit of a purist.
Yeah.
But then I would add, if I was doing just wild and it was the right time of year, obviously with dried rose hips, then I would use ground elder to give the kind of celery parsley flavor.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never
Highly
tried.
recommend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Rose hips, who knew? So tell us about the project, the Wild Food Project.
So that was good fun. And I highly recommend forcing yourself to eat wild food for a month to see where your creativity starts to come out and you start to think, what tastes like this? What will substitute for what I'm used to? And
Hmm.
the flavors are so much better. Um,
Yeah.
the Wild Biome Project was born out of Monica Wild's brain, and she'd eaten wild food for a month, and she wrote a book about it, and she recognized that her health had improved.
Hmm.
And that was with Matthew Rooney as well. And he had the kind of pre-diabetes thing going on, and that sorted itself out.
Wow.
And Mo lost weight. And so she thought, I'm going to expand this and I'm going to ask other foragers to try and do this. So out of that 24, half of us ate wild food for a month. The other half ate wild food for 3 months.
Oh
Oh.
wow.
Then the parameters on that, the health parameters were gut biome,
Mhm.
inflammation, hormones, nutrition, and blood sugars and blood fats.
Okay.
And my gut biome went from out of a score of 100. There's a company here called Zoe
Uh-huh.
that was set up in the pandemic. And so out of a score of 100, mine was 69. It went up to 96 in a month.
Oh,
My
wow.
inflammation went down. I wasn't taking supplements in that month, and my nutrition actually went up. My
Cool.
hormones leveled out, my blood sugar, we were wearing a blood sugar monitor,
Yeah.
and it just was almost a straight line.
Wow.
No
Wow.
carbs, no sugar.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, if
We
you're
had a
eating
couple.
only wild foods, it's hard to, I mean, unless you are like tapping maple trees, it's hard to get all that sugar.
Hmm.
Yeah, we did have wild honey, and we
Okay.
had one
Yes.
pot for the month, but
Yeah.
I didn't use the whole pot.
Wow.
Okay. Nice.
That's super cool.
Yeah, Mo's managed to get funding for 5 years from the University of Bradford, and she's got a lot more people doing this, 120, I think, for this
Cool.
one. And then over the next 5 years, she's going to do lots more studies, and it'll be in
Okay.
scientific ways. So yeah, we
So,
were just kind of playing, and we recognized that there was something to this. We kind of knew that before you started, but to have the parameters
Yeah.
and understanding, and so now it's going into science, which is exciting.
Yeah, that is really cool. So, did you find it difficult over the course of that month to get enough calories?
I didn't calorie count, but that is the issue, isn't it? When I first started, I was really quite scared. Like, what am I going to eat? How am I going to do this? And you're moving from your normal supply chain to another one. And then I didn't want to go back once I'd been on it for a month. And then I did manage to keep enough calories. I ate a lot of apples,
okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Hmm.
and I hadn't prepped fully, so I didn't have loads of condiments.
Okay. Hmm.
Why the book exists as well.
Yeah.
And so I felt like a hunter-gatherer from thousands of years ago at the very beginning of spring. What can I find to eat?
Right.
And how far do I have to expend energy to get to my food?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, and also it's like what season you're doing it matters a lot.
Yes. I didn't lose weight.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So
What time of the year did you do it?
I did it in April in Scotland, which was not the best month to do it in.
Yeah.
I did eat, but there wouldn't have been enough for the whole village.
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah.
right.
Uh-huh.
And then you're able to get to like eat like wild caught fish and stuff like that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Venison, rabbit. I managed to get hold of some wild boar, which was
Ooh,
delicious.
yum.
Yeah, wild
Mm.
boar. That would be the way, huh?
So good. There was a restaurant I worked at that made sweet potato gnocchi with the wild boar ragu with like shaved chocolate on top.
Oh, wow.
It was delicious.
Really good. So then you could have linden seeds roasted that taste like chocolate on top of,
Ooh, really?
yeah,
Cool.
Awesome. And maybe you could make a sauce with the rose hips.
Hmm.
of course.
Yeah.
They've
Cool.
become a staple now.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Wild Biome Project, that sounds really important, to be having these studies about, yeah, incorporating wild foods because a lot of people really do emphasize the science side of things. They want to see the studies before they believe it, you
Yeah.
know?
That's
Gives you
understandable.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. You have a good to change your behavior, you gotta have some
Hmm.
reasons to do it, you know.
Yep.
And once you have the experience of like, living for a month only eating wild foods, by firsthand experience what that does to your body. But to get to that point, it's kind of a big jump.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have jumped in if it hadn't been for, I'm going to be helping and
Yeah.
let's see what
Yeah.
this does.
Yeah.
Very glad I did.
Cool. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, one day we'll do that maybe.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of time and effort
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You're working full time, it's going to take up a lot more of your day than you want it to.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
And also, Matt, like it probably helps if to prepare, if you got a freezer full of venison, it's going to be a lot easier.
And also collectively having that
Ah,
community feel.
Right.
So we did a lot of Zoom calls during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people would during one of the calls, I was like, we went to the seashore, but we didn't get all the seed we wanted. And people sent it up.
Nice.
amazing.
That's
So
awesome.
it really highlighted how we need each other in that sort of environment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and in a traditional hunter-gatherer community, you'd all be helping to get the harvest, the whatever you're
Yeah.
foraging prepared and processed, and whether it's acorns or a bison or whatever it is,
Yeah. Or some
Exactly.
of you will be on bison duty and some of you will be on acorn duty, and then you get to both enjoy both, So,
Yeah.
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 Days where we didn't have to do 9 to 5 in the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Hanging out, telling stories, and I'm sure there's also a lot of it's not good to romanticize it too much, but it's also there's a I'm sure there's a lot of things that are a lot better than art than modern society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any other condiments that you want to share with the audience that you just feel like you really can't live without now that you started making it?
The pickles just
Mm.
add a little flavor burst, which I
Yes.
really enjoy. Let me have a quick look and remind myself of what's in here. Oh, the pestos, of course.
Oh, pestos, yeah. It's like every season you can have a different pesto.
Oh, and nettle seed salt.
Oh,
Oh, yum.
Absolutely adore that on my eggs in the morning.
Uh-huh.
So that's sesame seed, sea salt, and a nettle seed. And of course, that's good for the amount of nutrients in nettle seed is crazy. Still use a lot of vinegars and fermenting. It's really because I love sauces so much.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's the sauces that I really enjoy. So there's a bit of everything in my kitchen.
Right. Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, because you had a little bit of pickle as a side, you had a little bit of the sesame salt and nettle seed as like a topping, and then you got your sauce.
Yeah, so the nettle seeds are on very good quality beef.
Oh, yum.
Delicious.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the sauces, they just can really make a dish. Like, I'm just remembering this one time, it was the first time I had ever cooked duck. And my grandparents used to prepare duck, and I called my grandma and I'm like, "How do you make duck?" And she was like, "Oh, I don't know. Grandpa Bob always did that part, but it's really all about the sauce anyway. You got to have like a fruit, like a cherry or a plum sauce, and that's
Blackcurrant.
what she was on. So, yeah, I like found like a cherry jam that I turned into a sauce and served it with the duck, and it was beautiful.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Yes.
If I'd had more time, I would have gone shooting for wild duck.
Yeah. hmm
I had that years ago, and it was way, way better.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's very good.
Yeah, I've never had wild duck or
hmm
wild
Life
goose.
goal.
Okay, yeah.
hmm
We got a lot of ducks out here, ducks and turkeys, but
Yep.
yeah, I mostly focus on the deer. It's a lot like more bang for your buck.
True.
Oh, and I got that.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
That only just clicked for me.
Buck for your bang.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience, like where they can get the book, if you're doing classes, walks, how to get in touch? Yeah.
Okay, so the book can be found on Amazon and Waterstones and Barnes and Noble,
Nice.
um, and in all good bookshops. I don't know what we're going to do. I should start contacting places in the States. I've been mainly focused on the UK at the moment, understandably. In terms of walks, you can contact me directly, or you can contact the Five Arms in Braemar and come over here and do that. So if people are coming over anyway, I will travel for a walk or a workshop.
Cool.
In terms of finding me as a medical herbalist, I work through Napier's, which is Scotland's oldest still existing apothecary.
Nice.
Just celebrated its 165th year.
What?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So you can go on to napiers.net, and I'm quite happy to take patients from around the world.
Nice.
I'm a night owl, so actually working into the evening doesn't bother me.
Hmm.
That works very well with time zones, and medicine can be sent out. They have worldwide service now.
Cool.
What was the other thing I was thinking? Oh, I should really let you know that I'm a director of the National Institute of Medical Herbalists as well.
Oh,
Oh,
nice.
New
cool.
finance director, yeah. So
What?
there are a lot of fun things going on.
Yeah.
I feel very honored that I'm part of that and part of that team.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that organization
Oh,
before
the
we wrap?
National Institute of Medical Herbalists,
Yeah.
161 years old.
Wow.
Oh.
And the oldest governing body, I think, I'm pretty certain in the world for herbalists.
Amazing.
We started to do more work with other governing bodies from other parts of the world as well, which is great. That level of collaboration and working together, that's my jam. That's what I really enjoy. I think collectively we're greater than the sum of the parts. Is
Mhm.
that the right way of putting it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We work better when we work together.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, the National Institute of Medical Herbalists is just really good at making sure that we're all moving in the same direction.
Mhm.
Nice.
And
Cool.
I like working in integrative medicine as well. So I like working with orthodox doctors.
Yeah,
Mhm.
If I get bacterial meningitis, I'm taking antibiotics.
sure.
Right. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but some people wouldn't as herbalists.
Right. Yeah.
They tried the usnea first or something. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, which has its part to play.
Yeah.
But then, herbalists are great at like stress, anxiety, menopause, all
Hmm.
those other aspects that may seem a little bit less serious to
Hmm.
orthodox medicine. Of course,
Hmm.
they're still serious. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But if we work together, then it works. It's way better for the patients.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think herbal medicine is just, it's so important for staying in balance. And like if you're getting off balance to have live a healthy life. And that's what most people need. But then if you have an emergency, that's kind of where Western allopathic medicine is good at, poisons and surgery and something that can kill you.
Antibiotic.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you break a leg, herbalist isn't going to be able to do all the stuff that a hospital can
No,
do.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, totally.
But it's about integration and knowing, balance, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and not fighting each other and just moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not difficult.
Right. Yeah, there is like there is sometimes a rift between like the medical herbalists that are more leaning towards working, with Western science and then herbalists that are not, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and nothing's really wrong, is it?
Right. Exactly.
Where you feel comfortable in your camp and where you feel
Yeah.
comfortable in your spirit is what you're doing. It's working
Mhm.
in with Lyme disease that's really showed me just how much that working together and that collaborative model works for the
Uh-huh.
patient. So
Yeah.
in the way that we often treat that is antibiotics
Yeah.
and then over for the herbal antibiotics.
Yeah.
And that model seems to work really, really well.
Yeah. That's so promising. It's amazing.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, Natasha, this has been a fantastic talk. It's been great chatting with you and learning about how you prepare these foraged condiments, and your book is very exciting. So, yeah, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thank
No,
you.
thank you for inviting me. It's been great fun. Been brilliant
Yeah.
to talk to
Definitely.
you.
Yeah, you too. Enjoy the rest of your day, Natasha. See ya.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye.